Mark, it's just like Hollywood to racing, just miles and miles of paddocks where you can work horses. It's humbling, I suppose, in a way.
With the focus on her, we've had to have 24-hour security. You know, we've had our own vet visitor twice. Peter Angus actually flew up with her, went back to Melbourne and came back up. Michael Bryant, her chiropractor, muscle manipulation. Tony and Paddy are here looking after her. Tony's what I call the mechanic. Like every good race team, you need a good mechanic, and that's Tony.
I spoke to Moods and we discussed where we're at with her, and he decided to put the saddle on and just give her a good trot and see how she is and see how she settled in. It was great actually leading her out to the track with Paddy on and watching her. It's like watching a child sort of go to school for the first day. That's what it sort of felt like. I was quite glad to see her sort of come back towards me and all in one piece because everything was so new. So I didn't want to layering up. But it was great. It was very good.
It's so quiet. We're out there and there's no one else around. It's just me and her. It's amazing.
While many at home were interested in Black Caviar's health, others seemed more focused on her heart. Jane Chapel-Hyam, who shared the training grounds, lent the Moody stable an 8-year-old to accompany her. It was a fling that would stir the imagination of those who loved the great mare.
Tony and I kind of knew she may have needed a mate, but we weren't quite sure, and we tried to settle her in without a friend, and she was settling okay, but we kind of thought she was sort of looking out the door all the time, and she wasn't really properly settled like back home.
So he said, have you got a filly or a gelding? And I said, well, you wouldn't want a filly just in case it came in season. That wouldn't be good for your mare. So we decided that I had an 8-year-old gelding that I own myself, called Saloon, who's by Sadler's Wells out of a Group 1 mare, Fire the Groom, and he's a half-brother to Stravinsky. So I thought he was grand enough to go and bob down next to him.
I think he's quite loving it, so being next to Nellie, so it'd be like sort of sitting next to old Al McPherson, wouldn't it?
It might sound hard, but she ain't a Sharapova, she's a never rattle over. And what a champion never rattle over was. But she's the equine champ for me. We've had Far Lap, and recently we've had See the Stars over here, but she's going to go down in the history books and even go past Zanyata from America.
He's been a great friend for her. They've made it up, and he just loves her, and I presume she loves him, but yeah, he's one of a kind as well.
What followed was the biggest media onslaught ever seen with an Australian racehorse. The international racing media, television networks, and all of the English press couldn't get enough of her.
It was taken to a new level of press. I missed the press conference, the official press conference on the Thursday, and that wasn't by design. That was, I had to be at home to tend to other matters. I got there a day late. Thought, well, that's one out of the way, I don't have to worry about it, but quickly that was rectified and everyone turned up at my place, I think, on the Friday morning. And I think we did nearly on 2 hours, or an hour and 55 minutes, I think we accounted for probably some dozen to 15 individual interviews, as well as a group interview and a quick viewing of the horse. And it was something I'd never experienced, but I thought, listen, let's get it all out of the way, put it to bed, and then they can go and concentrate on something else. You know, this was in the week of European Cup soccer, the biggest single sporting event in Europe every year. And this horse from the other side of the globe was taking centre stage. It was constant pressure each day. The phone calls from abroad, from home and local, people wanting to be there, people wanting to come in. Even the scrutiny from people from home that were visiting, people that would walk through my stable on a weekly occurrence to visit their own horse that would have the opportunity to view Black Caviar, felt that, hey, I'll pop in and see Moods and give the horse a pat. If only they knew. I had to stand on my tongue with both feet not to tell them to go and, you know what, I've got to just on a tongue, you know, we know she's well, but I'd rather have to do a little bit more with the Tuesday than blunter.
The Tuesday before Black Caviar's appointment at Royal Ascot, the team had scheduled a gallop. It was a morning of mixed feelings. Perhaps Peter Moody's champion Hinchinbrook was on his mind. A year earlier, Hinchinbrook's racing career ended in the same place, on the same day, preparing for the same race.
It was for me to see that her action was right. She was fit, that wasn't an issue. I thought she was in a bit of pain, and I just wanted to see how she'd run through that. She'd done it time and time again, but I just needed to see that, yeah, listen, I'm going to carry these issues into another battle for you, and I needed to see that on the Tuesday morning, and she didn't come out of it any worse than she went into it. But as the week dragged on, you know, I certainly got more concerned as the race grew closer.
There's no question that Peter Moody knows racehorses. Yet right at that moment, he had reservations about the mare's demeanour. But like all good racing men, he kept those thoughts to himself.
You just try and read into the horses. You know, I had Tony and Paddy there with her 24/7. No one knows her better than those two. But I got to the stage, even on the Friday, I suggested that the boys go away for the day because I wanted to spend the day with her to get a read on her myself and convince myself that, you know, she was still able to get the job done. You know, that might sound a bit bullshittish and that, but it was what I felt at the time. You know, it was you know, it was a close call. You know, I probably didn't confide in too many people. I confided in my wife, who's the bouncing board for most things. It's probably every home is. And her advice to me was, you've got it right 21 times in a row. It's your call. You know, my gut feeling was that she wasn't right. She was a fair way off at top, but she was good enough to get away with it. It is a bit lonely, and I think in this caper, the coach, he's the first bloke that's going to get kicked to death if something goes wrong. It was a judgment call. You know, it was one I had to make. I went to the owners on the Tuesday, and without telling them that I was deeply concerned about the Saturday, I said, don't plan 1 minute after Saturday, because you knew then there was certainly going to be no Newmarket. Saturday was, we're going to be lucky to get to Saturday, let alone Newmarket. But I didn't want to spoil the field and worry everyone in that situation. You know, like I say, there was nothing, you know, particularly wrong with it. It was just her general well-being and wear, tear, and the end of a long campaign. You know, there was a fair bit riding on the call to run, not to run. You know, it was a big decision. I've never felt so much pressure.
Ignorance is bliss, and he really didn't share any of his concerns that he subsequently shared with us.
We had no insight whatsoever in England as to the condition she was in, other than Peter was saying, as he did to the public, she's in a best shape. I'm sure Peter did with the right motive. I'm sure that he didn't want us concerned, worried, etc., etc. But that's the sort of guy Pete is.
I was happy enough with her. On the Friday, she had a bit of sparkle about her again. Saturday morning, we gave her a little trot. I was happy enough to go to the races thinking she could win. I didn't think it was going to be pretty. You know, I think the last words to Luke will look after her. You know, and I was confident enough she'd look after us.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ascot.
There is an inexplicable aura that embraces Royal Ascot. For centuries, kings and queens have watched their thoroughbreds and subjects alike adorn the famous track. This was the stage that Black Caviar and her connections were about to walk onto. Pressure within the group was high, and the day's journey from Newmarket required resilience and calm.
This is the
I think I got into the
winning
yard
race,
late
yeah.
because I knew it was going to be
memory man, yeah.
shit fight. You know, I was very taken back with the attention.
Do you remember the pressure suit you had to
The
wear?
Aussie presence, but I think
pressure suit.
the English people were just so overjoyed to see this horse from the other side of the world.
Oh, that's how they got that on her.
Because the only danger was French, and there's one thing they hate more than Aussies, it's the French. So, but it was amazing how she captured people. You know, something I'd never thought I would be involved in. You know, it was rock star stuff. It was an unbelievable feel. I think, well, we're going in there to see this horse. All these people are going to see this horse, but hey, it's our horse.
We were just ready for it. Today's the day we're going to see Black Caviar running at Ascot.
The Saturday was something that you'd like to sit back in 20 years' time. We're old and grey and reflect on what's happened.
It was incredible. It's surreal. It's dreamlike was the experience.
We knew that possibly we'd be seeing the Queen that day, and you know, it was very exciting.
Across Australia, TV screens lit up past midnight. It seemed most of the country had stayed awake to watch the mare run. In that instance, she would truly become the horse that stopped the nation.
Everyone was quite buoyant, happy to be there in the presence of the Queen and royalty and stuff like that. Pete myself, we didn't talk much about the race. He said, you know what you're doing, and I don't need to tell you much more. And he doesn't like to bog you down with his instructions anyway, because he thinks jockeys are very simple-minded, so we can't follow him anyway.
I hated the silks that they wore, the pink and black silks. I hated it.
We walked out all together with the Black Caviar posse underneath the grandstand there at Ascot. Just said a Cheerios to
We were concerned about her in this because she had so many injuries.
I watched her trot away. Probably wanted to close my eyes. You know, she wasn't as fluent and as happy as she'd presented previously, and I knew that. Watched her go down on the big screen. It was amazing watching Federation Square in Australia on the big screens at Ascot. You know, what the bloody hell's going on here? Midnight in Melbourne. Here's all these people in the cold damn on the big screens at Ascot. That was once again quite surreal, seeing the support from home. I was just thinking, shit, I hope you haven't got this wrong.
She dropped off a bit rough, but she warmed up pretty good. We're getting cheers going down to the start. She had a barrier blanket fitted. She was a bit agitated. It wasn't a normal self like she normally walked around with her head on the ground, not with a care in the world.
And she's slotting into stall 15.
Normally she's very relaxed. She was the same horse going when I got on her back for the most part and going down the gates. When they opened, she sprung well. She travelled nicely through the run. Didn't travel like she usually does. She didn't travel in her usual manner. Didn't tie me into the race. Actually got to the stage where I actually had to give her a squeeze to actually take the challenge up to the rivals.
From the time she'd gone half a furlong, I thought, hold the phone. Luke was sitting on her, well, he wasn't on a loose rein, but she didn't toe up like she does. I thought, crikey, you know, you've done the wrong thing here. You know, she's not here more than you think. It got to the point where I actually had to notice me give her a shave. I kept sort of probably enforcing the Luke a little bit. You know, it's bloody steep. Keep her on the bridle for as long as you can. Don't let her off it unless you've got to. And when I saw him reach for the gun at about the 2 furlong mark, I thought, oh, holy hell. And at the time, you don't think much of it, but to get fair income, I've given very, very few hits in her life because she's been good enough to get to those positions without needing so. She may have been a bit complacent, and I may have been a bit complacent in the fact that I let her idle late, thinking that she's a horse of old. It was heart and mouth the whole way for me. I'd never felt like that in a race before. All I've ever done is look after this mare. That's win first and foremost, but keep her one piece. I thought I had the race won, and I thought I'd just let you coast. And usually she would have, but she stopped significantly underneath me and let the rest of the horses into the race.
I responded purely by instinct because I shit myself when I saw him coming. I thought I had it won, but being on a horse like that, you don't actually get a great gauge of how quickly they stop underneath me because they're such a fluid moving horse.
Close one, isn't it? I make dinner now, okay?
It's usually two heads. It's three heads at the
We
same
were
time.
actually standing in the owners area, which is a little bit off.
I'll take half an hour anyway.
I'm busy doing the film.
Definitely
Sorry,
from
folks.
where we were
Apologies.
standing, we hadn't won.
I was kind of in a bit of a shock to work out whether we'd won or lost because everyone had different opinion whether she'd got there.
And then the crowd just roared. And I thought, she must have won. That was far better than when I thought I'd lost.
For me personally, the greatest come down to the whole experience of going to Ascot and conquering England was the fact that my ride was a bigger story than the fact that Black Caviar won 22 straight. And the courage he showed to win was the mark of a true champion.
So I could see how Luke was hurting, you know. It was ridiculous in a way, you know, we weren't sort of jumping for joy. It was something I probably never do anyhow, you know. But, you know, yeah, it was all this what ifs, you know. Luke nearly stuffed it up. To me, it was, I nearly stuffed it up. Maybe she shouldn't have been there, but she won.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the Diamond Jubilee, Black Caviar.
We never expect dominance. We've never asked her for dominance. She gets the job done. We're more concerned about her next run than we are today. So we're extremely proud of her. She's 22 for 2022. It's never been about margins. It's never been about dominance.
Why was it numbing? I think that was the press side of it, you know. I think the general public appreciated her for what she was, you know, what she'd achieved.
And then to go out, win the race in such dramatic fashion. I was fortunate I was on the line, so we knew that we'd won, and of course, and then to have that opportunity to walk out on Ascot and lead the horse in before handing it over to the girls, it was just surreal.
We were getting the photo taken with the owners, and then someone tapped me on the shoulder, I can't recall who it was, and said, would you be able to bring her over for the Queen to have a look? And said fine. We walked her up in front of the Queen, and then Paddy Bell said, you want to give her a pat? In his Kiwi accent. And I thought, oh, we moved her one step closer, and I was glad she was so knackered because, you know, we're one step off landing on top of her here. And all these people milling around and people patting her on the bum and slapping her as they walk past. I thought, she's just a slap in the right spot here, and we'll, you know, Black Caviar will be riding Queen Elizabeth, not the other way around.
A magnificent moment. A great moment for Australian racing, for Australian sport.
It was an outstanding experience, you know, something I'll probably never experience again, whether it be for good or bad. The one thing I probably did learn was how great a horse she was. I backed her great ability, her intestinal fortitude, which makes her such a great champion that she's been, to carry the day. And she did it.
Black Caviar would do it again.
And the legend lives on. Black Caviar by Caviar.
And again.
But this is triple power. Written an elegant machine. And Black Caviar strikes away to win it by 4 lengths.
And again.
No one asking to make a come after now. And in the half minute she raced up and in the lead. She's giving Sydney some of the black magic. And look at that Black Caviar. She raced away. She's going to set a new Group 1 record in Australia. She threw in a lead of her own. Black Caviar racing away from Emily. Black Caviar doesn't let us down.
3 more magical occasions as she returned home to make it 25 of the most unforgettable moments in Australian sporting history.
She's our father of our era, and the two should never be compared. You know, everyone's going to remember her, and then when they think a little harder, they'll remember myself and Luke. So that's something we'll never ever lose, regardless of what happens to us from here on in. I'll always be remembered as the trainer of Black Caviar, and that can never be removed, and that's something I'll always be extremely proud of. You know, I hope I'm just remembered as not a bad bloke. You know, there's better horsemen than me around. My wife's one of them. I've seen a lot more talented horse people that probably haven't achieved their dreams for different reasons. I'll be happy with not a bad bloke. He was not a bad bloke, needs to train a good horse one day.
I'm not finished yet,
Well, dinner now. It'll be half an hour before it's ready, isn't it?
Yeah, don't say that with a film.
Will I do or not?
Okay, folks, I'm going to put DVD 2 on now, and this is that was the story of Black Caviar. I'm going to put the wins now. The the second DVD has got all her wins. That was the story of Black Caviar. I hope you enjoyed that. So I'm going to put the second DVD in now.
I'll make dinner, right?
It's all her wins. This is apologies, folks, about the interruption. So, this is all her wins now.